2, 3.
Growing up as a Thames was awesome. It was pretty awesome.
I grew up with a lot of brothers, well, 2 of them, but then later on I had a 3rd.
Like my very first memories were in our house in Stockbridge, and in my memories the house was huge, but looking back in pictures it wasn't very big.
I remember a lot of bike riding, a lot of ghost man baseball in the backyard, a lot of Little League, a lot of kids ministry stuff at church, and houseboats and the lake. That was my childhood.
One of my favorite memories is once we moved into the house that we live in now in Lawrenceville, my dad started putting lights up on the house, Christmas lights every year. And one of the very first times he ever put up Christmas lights, he spent all day putting them up. And then that night, he got done and he called everybody out to the front. And we all go outside and he plugs in the lights and we're like, oh, ooh, it's beautiful. And then he goes, wait, and like turns this remote. And all of a sudden the lights start going crazy all around the house. They like go up and down the railing and go crazy. And he named it Ted's Disco. Probably my best friend growing up was my brother. We never really fought, ever. I mean, you know, we did, but we always liked each other. We never went through a phase where we hated each other for a minute or something. From the time I was very little, he would always take care of me, always know where I was, always have, you know, one eye on me, whether we were, you know, at the baseball field or at the gym when my dad's basketball games. He always knew where I was. The grocery store, I'd get lost in the grocery store, he'd find me. I think the only thing we really ever fought over was the computer, like right after we got internet. But besides that, my mom was always very, you know, nurturing, and she would say, you know, let's read books and let's go to the park together and let's do family things. And my dad would always, he would always teach me things. He would always teach me how to ride a bike or how to play basketball, or he mostly taught me the rules for sports.
I believe that growing up, some of my favorite memories were honestly from camp. I remember learning how to cuss at camp. Very formative things like that. I believe I did hit somebody in the face in 6th grade. I remember I got in a fight with Ty one time, and I believe that there was the way that like water damage had discolored the ceiling in this one cabin. It looked like a butt. And I remember, I think it was, I don't know if it was me or if it was Ty who looked up at the ceiling. We were both so mad at each other. And I believe a counselor or 2 had already been in trying to mediate the situation, and it just wasn't going anywhere. And the thing that changed everything was one of us looked at the ceiling and said, hey, look, there's a butt on the ceiling. And that did it. That was it. The argument was over. My dad seems to know a little bit about everything. He can fix a toilet and build some stairs. And he even knows a little bit about cars. He knows a little bit about a lot of things. And growing up, watching him, I think I sort of wanted to be like that. My mom has sort of always been the one out of the 2 of them that, honestly, I learned from her the ability to not get freaked out by certain things. I freak out about certain things, life things, directional things. And I know from my mom growing up, I don't know, she would just kind of roll through things. She'd just kind of keep going. She wouldn't stop and just sit. She would just keep moving. So that's one of the things that I definitely have learned from my mom.
I guess it was when I was a junior in high school. I was asked out on a date, just like straight up, out of nowhere, like, hey, we should go out sometime. And I was like, okay, maybe.
Around the end of my youth group time, I was probably a junior or senior, all of a sudden this girl that I had known about my entire life, I never really thought about her in this way, but this girl that I'd known my entire life, all of a sudden it was like she'd give me hugs at church. She'd act like she was really happy to see me. She'd give me a hug. She'd look me like dead in the eye. Turns out that she was giving everybody hugs in the youth group, so it really didn't mean anything that she was giving me these hugs. But my mind just started going crazy, and I just started telling myself that this girl might actually like me.
Then, my senior year of high school, I needed a shoulder to cry on. And Billy, he was just willing to be there for me and listen, always listening, and letting me talk and cry, and he was just such a good friend. Well, I thought that we were just like best friends for life, but it turns out, no, I knew he liked me.
And then like around spring 2007, I finally got her to go somewhere with me, just me and her. And it was to a Steak and Shake. And she really wanted me to know that this wasn't a date. I knew that she liked cheese fries. And so, I don't know, maybe I'd done my homework. Maybe I'd see her get cheese fries at a Steak and Shake before or something. So anyway, I go to the Steak and Shake, and I get in my mind that I'm gonna order some cheese fries and this is gonna be really good. She gets there and I can tell she's just like, she's got the wall up. She's there, but that's just about it. Her presence is going to be enough for this moment in time. And so I started thinking to myself, okay. The waiter comes around and I asked Katie, I said, do you want some cheese fries? And she said, no. And so I ordered some cheese fries anyway. And when he came back a couple minutes later, he put them down in front of me. Well, of course, I slid them to the center of the table as an olive branch. And then I picked one up and I started to eat cheese fries. And wouldn't you know it, the entire meal goes by and she didn't eat a single cheese fry.
And I really didn't want cheese fries. I'm just saying, I didn't want them. And we weren't on a date, so he shouldn't buy me food.
I don't know, she'll just act like she didn't really want cheese fries that day. That one single day in her life that she didn't want cheese fries. I don't believe that for a second. She just didn't want me to eat. She didn't want to eat my cheese fries because she didn't want me to think that we were dating. But I knew we were. I knew we were. Valentine's Day that year, I wanted to get her a book, but I accidentally left it out in the car. Either that or maybe I didn't want to bring it into Steak and Shake and get it all nasty. So I left it out in my car, and after the meal's over, she starts walking back to her car, and I just tell her, hey, I'll be back. I'm gonna go run to my car and get a book. Well, when I come back, she's just furiously talking on the phone to somebody, and I stand there for like a minute or two, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. She's still talking on the phone to this person. She knows that I'm standing here, and finally she got off the phone. And I go to give her the book, and she's just being really standoffish. And she would admit later to me that she was terrified that I was going to kiss her.
And I was terrified that he was going to kiss me. That would have been really inappropriate. We weren't not dating. We were just friends. We crossed the line.
Everything, let me remind you, everything up to this point has been so calculating. Why would I ever do that? That would just be like, we would not be sitting here today if on that Valentine's Day I would have slammed her up against the car and kissed her mouth. Just would not have worked, and I knew that. It would have just been too much. So I didn't do it. I played my cards right, and later on that summer, I got my kiss.
So we decided that we were kind of together, and he was begging me to go with him and his family to the lake for the 4th of July. And I was like, no way. I've been dating you for maybe 2 weeks. I'm not going to meet your whole entire family. I'm just not prepared for this. And, but he convinced me. He's like, don't worry about it. It's really like, it'll mostly just be hanging out with like me and Matt, and Michael Jonathan was there. He's like, we'll just all hang out together. Like, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Convinced me to go. And it was the day that changed my mind, that I decided, you know, I love him and I love his family, and, you know, let's just go for it. Let's just be boyfriend and girlfriend after 4th of July, and after being with him and his family and seeing how he interacted with his family and his cousins, and I just gave in.
Oh, the proposal. Number one, I had been making an excuse for a very long time, and that excuse was, oh, we'll wait until we get out of school. We'll wait until we graduate. Well, when I was thinking about it and planning the whole New York trip, I thought to myself, oh man, there's so many different intersections going on right now in our life. Number one, she just graduated. Number two, I've been promising that we would get engaged when we graduated from school, when we were done with school. It was Christmas time, so this would be like a nice Christmas present. I was trying to knock out a bunch of birds with one stone. And I tell God, I tell him that I'm pretty dumb, and I need him to like make things really obvious for me. And so I just wait until he does, and most of the time when things are like a big deal, he will make it obvious. And in that situation, I looked at it, and to me it was a no-brainer. It was like, this will be perfect. She'll graduate from college, and then later on I'll spring some airline tickets on her so she can go see her friend Molly. It'll be huge because she hasn't seen Molly in a few months. And then like, we've always been talking about going to New York, and then later on in the week we'll go to Central Park or something, and then I'll just do it right then and there.
Well, that whole morning was pretty confusing for me because nobody was telling me what was going on. Like, I was trying to talk to Molly and figure out where we were meeting, because Molly worked every morning and we'd meet up in the afternoon. And so I was trying to figure out where she was and when we were meeting, and I was asking Billy, you know, where are we going, what time are we leaving, you know, and he just said, well, you know, let's just go to the Museum of Modern Art. Let's go there. And I was like, great, let's go. And it's all very confusing to me, honestly, because then we go to the museum, but we never go inside. And I remember standing outside like, well, let's go on in. Come on, let's go in. He's like, oh, look, but we're right here next to Central Park. Let's go in Central Park. And I was like, but isn't Molly meeting us here? And he was like, no, she isn't. Oh, okay. And we walked up this path, and it was perfect. It was trees all right behind us with a bench, this beautiful like log bench, and the skyline was just right in front of us. And so Billy says, hey, let's stop and take pictures here. And I was like, okay. So we stop, and we take these like awkward pictures of us because there's no one to take a picture of us. So I'm sitting there by myself, and then Billy takes the picture by himself. And then I was like, hey, why don't you take a video? Because he had a camera and we were taking videos. So why don't you take a video? He was like, okay. So he goes down to his book bag, and I'm standing there looking around, taking in New York City and Central Park. And he's like fumbling around in his bag. And he comes out with this box, and I'm looking at him, and then he just is down on one knee, and then I mean, it's just floodgates. Like, I just start bawling, like, without any. I just started crying, and I knew what he was doing. You know, he was down on one knee and he had this little box in his hand, and he told me he loved me and he wanted to spend the rest of his life with me, and asked if I would marry him, and I said yes. And then he was like, "Hey, look over your shoulder." And I looked over my shoulder, and there was Molly with the camera, just clicking away. And it was really, really special. And it's the kind of thing that we hope one day in the future to be able to walk through Central Park with our kids and show them the place we got engaged.
All the awkwardness with like, where's Molly? What's Molly doing? That was like planned. It was like, we got to give Molly time to get in position.
Like
yes.
You have like stuff on your face.
My endless love.
So were you disappointed in some of my answers and the questions?
Disappointed is not the right word. It could have been.
I was taken aback. I wasn't prepared.
I know.
I should have prepared.
What? Like in Central Park or with these answers?
No, with the answers.
Oh.
No, Central Park, it was good not to be prepared.
Right.
Yeah.
Dude, I wanted to wham you in the face with like so many different emotions and things happening at once.
I'm glad you didn't actually hit me in the face.
Molly in the bushes, New York, ring, crazy. That's what I wanted.
You should smile. You look like you have a look of disgust on.
Why does everybody think I got like a look? Goodbye. Goodbye to you all.
Peace out, Girl Scout.
Thank you for coming to my wedding.
Hey, thanks for coming to the wedding.
Thank you for coming to the wedding and the rehearsal dinner. Those of you who came to the rehearsal dinner. Time capsule. I don't know what that means. I don't know what.
Hours worth of footage.
I don't know what.
Hey, don't make me look stupid, okay?